This is The Wire for 2300 Zulu, August 15th, 2025. Precedence is routine. Information cutoff is 2200. Bottom line up front. Putin arrives in Alaska for summit. UK migrant crisis continues to worsen. Beginning with international events, in the United Kingdom, the situation is reaching a breaking point regarding the migrant crisis. On Wednesday evening, a migrant from the Canary Wharf Migrant Center, formerly the Britannia International Hotel, broke into a nearby apartment. Details are hard to verify, and no names have been released so far. However, a woman inside the apartment, who was blind, possibly did not know that the migrant was inside her home. Sometime later, the woman's daughter arrived at the apartment, discovering the migrant in the process of assaulting her mother. The daughter managed to get rid of the migrant, but after some time, she decided to approach the entrance to the Britannia Hotel with a meat cleaver. A security guard managed to calm her down, but police arrested the woman at her home sometime later. The judge denied the daughter bail, and the status of the migrant who started all of this remains unknown. Authorities have stated that he remains in custody, but this cannot be verified at this point, as British authorities have a long history of secretly releasing violent criminals, especially migrants, without notice. On the home front in New York City, this morning a 3-alarm fire was reported at a residential apartment building in the Upper East Side, in the vicinity of 95th Street. The fire resulted in an explosion which injured 3 firefighters. In Alaska this afternoon, the peace summit between the United States and Russia began, with both President Putin and President Trump meeting at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. Analysts comment. So far, the initial meeting appears to be amiable, and today's talks ended several hours early on positive terms. Immediately following the meeting, President Trump conducted a phone call to undisclosed leadership in Europe. Since these are closed-door deliberations, we'll have to wait until morning to determine how things went on the first day, unless there's some kind of unplanned announcement by the White House. But at the moment, the general situation looks positive. Analyst comments for this wire. When governments push their populations past a breaking point, things get ugly, and London is rapidly becoming the central focus point for understanding what happens when things come to a head throughout the Western world. One woman with a meat cleaver who is at the end of her rope, with no options left, is not likely to result in any change, tactically speaking. Mass protest is unlikely to result in any change in this situation either. However, the rawness and grit of this incident is significant. Bottom line, the British government does not know what generational anger they have stoked at this point. The Britannia Hotel is host to significant police activity and has been turned into an urban fortress by the authorities seeking to protect the violent criminals inside. Roughly 1,000 migrants are being housed at this facility, many of which have long criminal records. British authorities keep shuffling the migrants around in an elaborate shell game so that no one really knows for sure how many are in a migrant center at any given time. This also serves to prevent locals from building familiarity and starting to notice the same faces committing crimes over and over again. This site is also host to significant protest activity, but so far this key terrain has not been breached or vulnerabilities exploited. So far, most of the activities surrounding the migrant centers in and around London have been fairly low intensity, but as more innocent people continue to be harmed, this will not last. Yesterday, London also announced the expansion of surveillance operations in the city. 10 surveillance vans equipped with face recognition equipment will be parked throughout the area, scanning the faces of every single person who walks by. This surveillance program will without question be used to target protesters, with their data being run through a plethora of databases to identify key personnel and leadership. AI initiatives will make it impossible to organize any resistance effort at scale in a few years, so right now is probably the best chance that the British have for organizing in more ways than just standing on the street holding a sign. This concludes The Wire for 2300 Zulu, August 15th, 2025.